What's going on, everyone? It's Purple Haze here. And first of all, I just want to introduce myself to the Xdefiant community. I'm Purple Haze. I'm a variety game content creator, and I love to talk about the intersection of business and gaming. I also interview other game content creators. So if you're someone out there, I would love to tell your gaming content story. And I also want to say I'm an Xdefiant enthusiast. I have over about 250 hours in the game, but don't worry, I am pretty casual. I don't really play first person shooters, but I love Xdefiant. I'm also someone who's worked in the gaming industry. I've worked in the back end of business a lot on the financial side of things. And so I just want to get my voice out there to the community and how I see the games going. Also want to give a shout out to all my fellow content creators that I follow. So first off, my fellow female veteran out there, Masha Babe. I love your content. Obviously, Lena Lou, love her hair. Then Nightfall, Fiery, Jack of all trades. All y'all, I watch your content. And if y'all are looking for like builds or amazing gameplay or just really great opinions about why the game's great or what needs to work on it, please go check them out. They have great opinions. But with that said, hopping into the business side of things, that's why we're here, right? Okay, so talking about Xdefiant from a business side of things, I really want to like break this down into like two sides, or break the video down into two segments. One is really about the market of Xdefiant, and one is really about the strategic importance of Xdefiant. So when we talk about the market, I'm not really talking about advertising. I mean, that's part of it. But what I'm really talking about is the competitive landscape of Xdefiant. So with that, what we look at are the other competitive shooters out there. What we look at is just where's the gaming industry right now. And we look at like the IP and what Xdefiant's launching in. And for my opinion, I think Xdefiant actually gets a lot of check marks here, right? They're established, they're launching a new IP, but they're using an established IP. So that's like a really unique way to get your product out there. So, check on that. Is the product different? So like when we think about like when we want to compare a game to its competitors, we want to say, hey, is this different enough that, or is it answering the need that the competition doesn't have? And I think we can all agree Xdefiant is different enough from the competition. That's why we love to play it versus some of the other games. We can say why it's different from COD, or why it's different from Valorant, or why it's different from Apex or CSGO, or you name it, right? We can say why it's different. And that's important because that starts to say that there is an actual customer for it. That's like the biggest thing that you want to say. Is there a customer base, or is there a player base? And Xdefiant has a player base, right? It may not be as big as we would like, but we have to also realize that Xdefiant really hasn't put a lot of like pre-marketing or pre-launch hype into their game versus what we would have seen traditionally in another game. And we can talk about that here in a second. So when I look at the market side of things, like the competitive landscape, I think Xdefiant is actually in a better place than some other games that have recently launched in a similar segment. The next thing I want to talk about is the strategic importance of this game to Ubisoft. And this is really where kind of if you want to say Purple's rose-colored glasses, go ahead. Because this is where I think if anybody has some like really jitters about the game, here's where I'm going to like kind of lay out why this is maybe a little premature. Sure, I think that Season 3 is important, but probably not for the reason other people think. And the reason why I'd say that is because Xdefiant is a very, very important IP to Ubisoft. It connects a lot of their shooter genre together. It gives them a free-to-play game that they don't currently have in the portfolio. It actually revitalizes some of their older IP. It gives them connections. It's a very easy lift to see how they can monetize this game in multiple ways. And that's really important because that's what investors have actually been asking Ubisoft to do. So for Ubisoft to actually shut down this game, they would have to figure out another way to create a free-to-play model given their universe of games. And I think it's actually a much harder to do to shut down the game. I think as a drastic measure, what they might do is just switch the development studio, like San Francisco is a very expensive market to produce a game, but I think they could give it to another studio who potentially has experience in first-person shooters, but that's neither here nor there. We may talk about that in another video. I just want to say it's very important that Ubisoft has this game beyond like, hey, is Spiderbot making sounds, or is Cleaner OP, which by the way, Cleaner is super OP, but that's a different story. Yes, besides all that, when you look at it from the business, like the strategic business side of things, this is Ubisoft's free-to-play model or free-to-play game and their proof of concept to the free-to-play model. So it's actually, there's a lot riding on that. However, as many people have noted, this game doesn't have a lot of resources, but that makes sense. And I think the reason why this is kind of very hard for people to understand is you have to understand, or you have to have an understanding, I guess that's the same thing, right? You have to understand basically how are games resource. So you have your premium service game, your premium launch type of game. Let's use Call of Duty, for example, that has it has a huge investment up front. It has a lot of pre-launch marketing to get people hyped up because they are going to sell you a very premium product. Some people would argue that, but they're going to charge a premium price for their product up front. So there is a small window to actually monetize that game. That's why you kind of put all your chips to the center of the table for those types of launches. That's why Call of Duty has the advertising and marketing budget that it has. When you're dealing with a free-to-play game, I don't care which one it is, but for the most part, those teams are smaller. They're much more agile. They're much more trying to just establish a proof of concept, just establish to tell you the truth, the most important thing is an addicting gameplay loop. Then they make things tighter, such as like netcode issues or such as hit registry. And then as you start to really get the game in that good spot, you then start to look at how can you monetize it later? How can you start to partner? And that's where you start to look at who are we starting to partner with from a competitive shooter landscape, like to make it a competitive pro game. What are the skins? Who are our players? What kind of skins are they willing to buy? And those are the people that start to come towards the latter end. And so I think that's really important context, because when you see that context, or at least from my perspective, when you start to look at it from that angle, you start to see that Xdefiant's following a fairly safe formula to their game. Season 3's, the biggest thing about Season 3, yes, there's a lot of sense of urgency for this game, is because Season 3 is really when it's going to establish itself. That is going to be the state where we start to see it go towards to the competitive landscape. So Season 2, I still think there's going to be some issues. Season 3 is really where it's at, and they're trying to get that team to understand that that is, hey, that's our big stand. Do I think the game's going to die? No. But I do think there's some internal pressure to get the game to a certain standard so that when it does actually hit the prime stage, where it does hit the competitive shooter universe, that it is really, really in a good state. So, yep, that's my point of view on it. I think I'll do a video on this, like on the business side of Xdefiant and Ubisoft, probably once every other week or week. I don't know yet. But let me know your thoughts. And as always, I don't care where you game, how you game, what you game on. As long as you're gaming, you're good with me. And as always, this is Purple Haze, and the proof is in the flame.